Hi, friends, and welcome back to the ICW Exchange, otherwise known as the Illinois Child Welfare Exchange. I'm your host, Jocelyn Fetting, and I'm really happy you're here with me. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to ground ourselves. If you need, and if you're able to, please pause this video and go grab your most comfiest sweater or your cozy socks. If you don't have that ability, I'm going to take a couple seconds to do a deep breath in and a deep breath out, which we're going to do twice. Okay? One more time. Wherever you are right now, maybe if you're driving, maybe you're walking, or maybe you're just sitting quietly, I hope you feel the most at peace. Because this conversation will be maybe a hard conversation for you to hear. It might bring up some heavy emotions around loss, family, and growing up in care. But I want you to know that you're safe here and that you're not alone. So this is the first of what I'm calling Big Sister Talks. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, and that big sister role has shaped nearly every part of my life. How I love, how I lead, and how I care for people. And even now, in the work I do and in conversations like this one, that big sister energy still shows up. So these talks are meant to be just like that, big sister conversations. Not lectures, not lessons, heart-to-heart moments from me to you. Today's talk is about loss. If you share my background, growing up in foster care or being involved in the system, then you already know that loss is a constant part of the journey. For me, I entered care when I was 12. Me and my 2 younger siblings were removed from our parents. And I stayed in the Illinois child welfare system for 8.5 years, aging out when I turned 21. And at the time, I knew why I was being removed. And honestly, that was one of the hardest parts. Because there's this kind of loss that doesn't come from death. It comes from being separated from people who are still alive. And that grief feels different. It's quieter, but in my opinion, it lasts longer. You're not just missing somebody you've lost. You're missing someone you can't have, even though they still exist. When you lose your parents to the system, there is no funeral. There's no closure. You're left with questions that don't really have answers. Why couldn't they do what they needed to get us back? Why weren't they able to change? And why wasn't I enough? That last one, why wasn't I enough, followed me for years and in multiple different placements. People would tell me, you have to forgive. You have to move on. But how do you forgive someone whose absence shows up everywhere? Every birthday, every graduation, each one of my siblings' birthdays that I had to organize and orchestrate and drive to, every big life moment that they're not there for. Parents are everywhere in those memories, even when they aren't. And their absence becomes its own kind of presence, heavy, constant, and hard to explain. As I got older, I started to see things differently. Instead of just asking why my parents couldn't do better, I started asking what happened to them. What did they go through? What kind of pain or trauma shaped the way they loved or didn't know how to love? That doesn't excuse what happened, not by a long shot, but it helped me release some of the anger. Both of my parents went through things I'll probably never fully be able to understand. And I've learned that sometimes hurt people really do hurt people. That understanding brought me some peace, but it didn't erase the pain. Because even knowing why doesn't make it okay. It just helps you carry it differently. Healing hasn't been quick. It's been over 10 years. And I'm still working through parts of it. But I found a few things that have helped me along the way. First of those, people. Letting people in again is one of the hardest things after losing the ones who were supposed to love you first. But please know this. Their inability to love you safely doesn't mean you are unlovable. I have felt so much love from mentors, friends, teachers, and even strangers. Love finds its way back to you, even when you're not looking for it. You just have to open up yourself to it. And I promise it's okay. And that doesn't mean everybody's going to stay. Maybe some people are there for a season. But if you can open yourself up to love again, I think in the long run, it'll help. It's helped me. It's helped me, and I've had a lot of people stay, but a lot of people leave. You just have to make yourself vulnerable to that again, even though it's scary. And in fact, if it is scary, I would talk to the person you're trying to let in, because maybe they will understand. Because you deserve that. You deserve people who love you. You deserve that human connection. You deserve to feel loved. Because you are. Even if you can't see it yet. The second, giving back. Being a support for others, especially for kids and youth, has helped heal parts of me that once felt unworthy. Community work, volunteering, mentoring, these things remind you that you matter, that you're capable of being someone's light, even when you once felt lost yourself. This can be engaging in foster care organizations, even in organizations that are separate from the foster care system itself. I know that when I first came into foster care, I thought I was the only one who was going through what I was going through. But since then, I've joined organizations like the IDCFS Statewide Youth Advisory Board. I became a substitute teacher. I supported training for youth who were training for the Chicago Triathlon. I've even volunteered internationally. And every time I meet the new kiddos or the new babies, or if they're part of the board, then the new young adults, I feel like there's a sense of family that's there. Because there are so many people out there who are impacted by the child welfare system. And you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even guess. And your experiences shape how you support them and how you understand them. So many people over the course of the last couple of years have told me that I would be a great mom. And that is something that absolutely terrifies me, because I don't understand how I could be. But it's because I know what it's like to lose that I'm able to show up for people who also don't have that. And so I know that this experience may feel like one of the biggest vulnerabilities, one of the biggest weaknesses, because on paper it is, right? The financial assistance or support, the peer support from students at school and friends at school, and honestly, the hugs from parents that you really want. All of those things were missing. But that just means that we also know how important it is for other people to get those. And so I would say that if you can, I would definitely volunteer or join an organization. And then we're going to move forward to my third helpful toolkit advice, which would be grace. I used to overwork and overcompensate because I was scared of being hurt again. But you can't protect yourself from loss by being perfect. Sometimes you just have to give yourself permission to rest and to feel and to cry and to breathe. Grace is not weakness. It's how we start to heal. I can tell you one thing, grace is still something that I'm learning to give myself to this day. It is still a learning experience. I'm still giving myself more as I go. Because I used to think everything was my fault. Every time my siblings changed a home, I thought it was my fault. Every time I changed a home, I thought it was my fault. Every time things went sideways in school or I lost friends, I thought it was my fault. It's not your fault. You're still learning. You're still growing. You're still figuring out the ways this world works. So how could it be your fault? And I have to remind myself that all the time. And I think this goes back to the friends I've made along the way and the volunteer service I've had. Because when I look at the kiddos in the schools, or when I look at the kiddos that I've interacted with internationally, I would never place all of the wrongdoings of the world on their shoulders. I would never blame them for being put in the system. I would never blame them for losing their parents. I would never blame them for that. So if you couldn't blame somebody else for the experiences that they've had, how could you reasonably and possibly blame yourself? And that's one thing that I'm gonna put my foot down a little bit more on, because it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It isn't. And when Robin Williams told, what's his name? Good Will Hunting. He told, I forgot his name. His name was Will in the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, I would see the movie, because it's one of those foster care movies that I get that touches me to the core. It's probably one of my favorite movies. And they don't overcompensate for the foster care, but it's kind of just like Robin Williams goes, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And it takes a couple times for him to actually get it through his head that it's not his fault. But it's not. And you have to let that go at some point. And all of the things that are bad that happen are not because you entered care, are not because you decided to speak up for yourself, are not because of you at all. And I just want you to know that, because I have struggled with that for a lot longer than I'm able to say. And if nobody has told you, I just want you to know that it's not your fault. And so, if you're listening and you're carrying your own kind of loss, please remember this. What happened to you is not who you are. What happened to you is something that happened. It doesn't define your worth. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are not difficult. And you are not unworthy. You are whole. You are resilient. And you are still here. And that matters. That matters most important of all. You are still here. So cry when you need to. Eat the chocolate. Watch the sad movie. Take the nap. And then get your butt back up. Keep chasing your dreams. Keep showing up for yourself. Because this isn't the end of your story. Not even close. This is just the beginning. There is so much waiting for you. Adventures, friendships, maybe even love. And every single one of these moments is proof that you are still becoming. You deserve patience. You deserve grace. And nobody can give that to you but you. So open that door and let love in. And let the healing begin. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the ICW Exchange. And thank you for spending time with your big sis. I believe in you, I love you, and I'm so very proud of you. Big sis.